Chapter 1842 Information Coordinator Xinqin. Yang Xinqin analyzed the situation and finally said something else. However, there is something about her words that makes people uneasy. Jangi looked up at Yang Xinqin and said, "What?" Yang Xinqin looked at Jangi and said, "She gives the impression that she doesn't care. If this is really a very important trial, why is our threshold so low? It's as if anyone can just walk in." Jangi suddenly realized that the uneasy feeling in his heart had been coming from this. If this so-called trial was really extremely important, why did it seem that both the Knight of Cross and Ling were just acting carefree? Was it really just a game in which humans open their doors to let cockroaches and ants in? Were they, as observers, just trying to entertain themselves? But even if they are only trying to please themselves, as long as we do it, we will also be rewarded. Because if they want to kill us, it would be too easy for them. We don't even have a choice, Jangi thought to himself as he once again came to Ling's side. Before he could even speak, Ling said, "I can hear all your conversations." She said with a smile, "You can either go in or not, it's your choice. But I suggest you give it a try, because if you succeed, the reward will be very generous, more generous than you can imagine." Zhangyi's prepared speech just disappeared down his throat. In front of Ling, he felt as if he was being seen through. This feeling had always been there, and in the past he had thought it was an illusion, but now he knew it was real. After Zhangyi returned, he relayed Ling's words to the others. "Let's go take a look," Zhangyi said. "We have to give it a try, otherwise I'll feel like I've missed out on something." Fatty Su looked at Zhangyi curiously. "Boss, you never do anything without being sure of it. This time you're actually taking the initiative to choose to take a risk, it's really strange." Zhangyi rolled his eyes and said indifferently, "In this world, is there anything that is absolutely certain? You never know which will come first, tomorrow or an accident." But, he looked at the bright doors, and Ichigard and Loridek had already gone in first. "I just feel that mechanical civilization has more information than we do. What they are after must be of great benefit. Compared to the risk, the reward is definitely even greater. They've made the choice for us, so we should just follow them." Zhangyi once again came to Ling's side. Ling already knew Zhangyi's character well, and she didn't see any signs of annoyance on her face. She was like a dedicated NPC, tirelessly answering the players' questions in front of the mission level. "Our strength gaps are huge. If we go in there, what if those guys are guarding the door and ready to kill us?" This was Zhangyi's biggest concern. Since it was a trial, it was impossible for everyone to pass. The best way to do this was to eliminate all the competitors, but with their strength, they could not defeat Ichigard and Loridek. Ling smiled and said, "Don't worry, that won't happen." She leaned into Zhangyi's ear and whispered, "As long as the beings that enter are there, their strength will be suppressed to the same level. This is to avoid the difference in biological levels from affecting the outcome of our trial. To the mighty god-level civilizations, they are all just insects. Therefore, the strength of Ichigard, Jangi, King Arthur, Saladin, and the others is meaningless. If humans were to let an ant and a praying mantis enter a room at the same time for an experiment, they would want to prevent the praying mantis from killing the ant first, as that would disrupt the progress of the experiment." Upon hearing this, Zhangyi's heart completely let go, and a sharp light flashed in his eyes. The strength of anyone entering will be suppressed to the same level. He already understood what was going on. At this time, Zhangyi's gaze swept over the crowd behind him. Those present here were the leaders of each country, and no one below Epsilon existed. But at this time, within a shadow, there was an elite force of hundreds of people. Members of the Volt Shadow Troop and the Heavenly God Squad. Ordinarily, they could only do menial tasks on the battlefield, but if they entered behind the gates of light, under the rules of the world behind the gates, they would even have the opportunity to kill Ichigard. The advantage of numbers was immense, and this brought Zhangyi in inner ecstasy. At this moment, Zhangyi made up his mind. "Okay, I understand. Thank you, Miss Ling." Zhangyi looked at Ling with utmost sincerity, trying to establish a good relationship with the examiner at this time. Over the past period of time, we have established a deep revolutionary friendship. I hope our friendship can last forever and always be the best of friends." Ling looked at Jangi with a smile, her eyes playful but also a little serious. "You are a man I have my eyes on. You must do your best. Although I don't have high hopes for you, I sincerely hope that you can be the one to pass the test." Jangi pouted and touched his nose. "You have so little confidence in me." Ling shrugged. "I have no hope for any of you." Her tone suddenly became deep and distant, with a vicissitude that completely contradicted her face. "For a long time, throughout the ages, we have not found the right person. But now, this is truly the best opportunity. Because we are all tired." Ling's words seemed to be full of meaning, but Jangi still decided to try his luck after entering the doors of light. However, someone had already beaten him to it. Arnold Olive, Cardinal of the Holy Roman Church, solemnly stepped into the doors of light, holding the Holy Sword of Judgment. Brian walked up to Jangi and nudged him in the ribs with his elbow, winking at him. "Hey, bro. Let's stick together once we're inside. That way, we can look out for each other." Jangi nodded with a smile. "Okay." Everything was unknown inside, so Jangi agreed without hesitation. If there was a conflict of interest between the two sides, Jangi would not hold back. Just as they were exchanging words, someone else took a step forward. It was Emperor Indra, who walked towards the doors of light together with Gao Changkong. Seeing that someone had already entered, the others, who were still on the sidelines, decided not to delay any longer. After all, no one knows what's behind the doors. If they go in late, they might suffer. So they all went in one after the other. Saladin, the emperor of the Kutan Empire, and the 3 leaders of Asgard entered the doors one after the other. "Let's go," Jangi whispered. Before he set off, he did not forget to remind everyone, "Remember, we must stick together and not get separated." However, his voice turned cold. "If we encounter others inside, we can use our advantage of being in a group to eliminate them first. Especially those 2 most dangerous guys from mechanical civilization, it would be best to kill them. Only in the world behind the doors would they have the opportunity to kill an existence of Ichigard's strength." Jangi looked at the doors, and at this moment, he set the most important goal in his heart, and that was to kill Ichigard. Because no matter what, a being with that kind of strength must not be allowed to come out from behind the doors. Otherwise, the entire world will be plunged into great chaos. And his own life will be in danger. He doesn't like unstable factors, and all factors that will disrupt his stable life must be eliminated. Jangi immediately posted this message in the chat channel for everyone. "After entering the light gate, if you encounter the 2 people from mechanical civilization, please report their location and time. At that time, we will take advantage of the large crowd to kill the 2 of them." After sending the message, Jangi said to the others, "Let's go." Jangi walked towards the light gate, and the 3 people from Colombia followed not far behind, so that they could look after each other after entering the gate. The second hand of time gave him a sense of foreknowledge of the unknown danger, so he didn't sense the deadly danger behind the doors. But when he entered the light doors, he couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Until his entire body disappeared into the light doors, the world in front of his eyes suddenly opened up, turning into a huge white space. Jangi froze for a moment, and when he looked left and right, Deng Shintong, Lian Yu, and the others were gone. The few members of the Columbia team had also disappeared without a trace. Jangi subconsciously called out to Yang Xinxin, Zhou Qir, and the others, but at this time he was shocked to discover that Mu Yan, who had been attached to his shadow, was no longer by his side. It was as if he had been stripped from the entire world and arrived in an independent world. Is this the trial Ling mentioned? Although Jangi was not sure what kind of ability this was, the civilization to which such a powerful being belonged should not be surprised if it did something even more incredible. Just as he was pondering what he should do next, he suddenly saw a flash of red in his eyes. In the pure white space, a young girl dressed in red stood not far from him. The young girl's image was humanoid, very similar to that of a human, and even her appearance was similar to that of a human, with only some minor differences, such as her elongated ears and overly delicate facial features. Jangi looked at the young girl, who had already come up to him and was looking directly at him. Jangi asked, "May I ask who you are?" Jangi's attitude was very polite. "I am the ruler of this world. In the language of your race, you can call me the information coordinating thought entity, or simply, God." God, Jangi muttered the word. To him, it was not an exaggeration to call such a being God. He asked carefully, "Why did you hold this trial?" After hearing this, God's face did not show any expression, and she simply responded in a tone that hardly fluctuated, to select a suitable successor to liberate the Yihen tribe. Liberate? Jangi was a little surprised, but before he could continue to ask questions, the red-clad young girl in front of him, who claimed to be God, spoke. "Now, the trial has begun. The first trial is a question." Jangi swallowed, looked ahead with a serious expression. The red-clad girl asked, "What do you think is the meaning of life?" Jangi was speechless. Jangi really didn't want to discuss something like philosophy. Most of the philosophers in history were crazy, because thinking about those confusing questions all day could really drive a person crazy. What is the meaning of life? Who knows? Jangi was too busy trying to figure out how to live a more comfortable life to really have time to think about such empty questions. However, for the level civilization where the girl in red is located, this is indeed a very thought-provoking question. After a person has obtained complete material satisfaction, their mind will fall into a great emptiness. Just as Schopenhauer said, after desires are satisfied, one will fall into a great emptiness and boredom. However, Jangi did not hesitate to give his opinion on the answer to this question. He has read some books, and he agrees with Yuho's views on life. The meaning of life is life itself, there is no other special meaning. He spread his palms. All life will perish, species will also be reduced to dust, nothing can be left behind. So everything is meaningless, no matter how many great and meaningful things you have done while alive, no matter how many people will remember you, or even be recorded in history, one day you will be forgotten by everyone. Any species will disappear in the long river of time. Therefore, life does not have any special meaning. It is only when you are alive that individuals of a species create an illusory meaning for their existence and satisfy their sense of existence. After listening to Jangi's words, the young girl in red did not give any response, and Jangi did not know if his answer was satisfactory to the other party. The young girl in red then asked the second question. "Do you think that if you obtained eternal life, would you be happy?" This question did make Jangi hesitate for a while. Because he really began to think about whether he should be happy or sad if he would never perish. Since ancient times, humans have been pursuing longer lives, as have ancient emperors in today's upper class. But no one has ever succeeded, so there are always people tirelessly pursuing immortality. Jangi ran his hand along his chin. "If you could live for a long time, you would probably be happy. The premise is that you have always been happy. If you are not happy, the longer you live, the more painful it will be. So I think it depends on the quality of life." The young girl in red asked in return, "Doesn't this answer contradict your first question?" Jangi blinked. The girl in red said, "Unfulfilled desires are painful, but fulfilled desires are boring. When you have endless life, all your desires will definitely be fulfilled, so you will definitely be plunged into endless boredom." Jangi almost blurted out, "Then at this time, desires become death. Because only death can free you from boredom, and being too bored can also be a person's pain." Jangi followed the logic of the girl in red and came to this conclusion. These words came out instinctively, but after saying them, he also frowned and pondered for a long time. It is indeed a thorny problem, but who cares? Anyway, I just want to live in the present, and if I have a good time now, it's all over. The red-clad girl in front of him looked at him, and a thoughtful expression suddenly appeared in her eyes, and a flash of light flashed from her eyes. The way you choose to face problems is to avoid them. Jangi shrugged his shoulders and smiled, evading is shameful, but it works. The young girl in red nodded, "Well, my problem is over. Jangi asked, "What about the result of my trial? Did I pass or fail?" He was actually a little nervous, because he really didn't expect the first level to be philosophy. He didn't know much about philosophy, and was really worried that he would be eliminated because of his insufficient academic level. The young girl in red said, "You have passed." Zhangyi's eyes lit up, and he thought to himself, "This trial is not as difficult as I thought." Soon the light in his world changed, and he was transported to another world. After Su Chunlei entered the doors of light, his vision blurred, and he entered a white world. He froze for a moment, and then began to look around anxiously. "Boss, Uncle Yu, Mr. Deng, where are you? Don't leave me alone. I'm finished, I'm dead for sure." Just as he panicked, a young girl in red appeared in front of him, her gaze calm. "Su Chunlei, hello. I am the administrator of this world. You can call me the information coordinator thought body, or you can call me God. Now you will be tested to see if you are qualified to inherit the legacy of the Yihen tribe." After some explanation, Fatty Su was a little dazed, but when he saw the adorable and flawless humanoid girl in front of him, his heart eased a little, and a blush appeared on his fat face. He stirred his hands together and nodded. The red-clad girl suddenly spoke, "My image comes from the personal hobbies of the collective unconscious creator. It is very normal to cause the intracranial mating fantasies of a group of people called otaku by humans. You don't need to feel ashamed of it." Fatty Su almost jumped up from his spot. No. The first question is, what do you think is the meaning of life?" Fatty Su's eyes went wide. "Huh? Philosophy? What the hell do I know about that? No, now that you advanced civilizations are doing screenings, you have to look at educational background first. It was already enough of a hassle to get hired by a big company before the end of the world, and now you're going to do this in an advanced civilization? That." Fatty Su wanted to speak, but he really didn't have much to say, so he looked like he was in a quandary. The young girl in red said, "Just follow your heart. I want to know your true thoughts." Fatty Su squinted and made a face, then suddenly relaxed after a moment's thought. "Why should I be anxious? I'm just here to make up the numbers anyway. The people who will be selected are all capable people, big shots like my boss or King Arthur. Just give me a random answer." Once he had relaxed, Fatty Su was completely stress-free. Living things have life, and only living things can talk about meaning. If you're dead, then of course you don't have meaning. The red-clad girl nodded, without expressing any opinions, and continued with the second question. "If you were given eternal life, would you be happy?" Fatty Su answered almost without thinking this time, "If you gave me games that never end, action figures, and cute girls to play with forever, I could be happy forever." After hearing this, the red-clad girl nodded. "Very good, you have passed." Fatty Su froze for a moment. "Huh? It was that easy?" Then he became excited. "I'm a genius." The light in front of him changed, and he was transported to another space. Yang Xinxin sighed. She and the girl in red looked at each other, and their expressions were almost indistinguishable. Facing this being that claimed to be an information-integrated thought body, she simply said indifferently, "A high-level intelligent system?" "Understood." The girl in red asked, "What do you think the meaning of life is?" Yang Xinxin, "Life has no meaning." She answered very decisively, without any hesitation. The red-clad girl asked, "Why?" Yang Xinxin replied, "Life will definitely come to an end. The essence of living things is just a genetic sequence. Memories will disappear with the death of an individual, and species will become extinct. Meaning is shaped by the individual, finding a reason for one's existence, otherwise they will fall into despair from losing the meaning of existence." The girl in red asked again, "If you were given eternal life, would you be happy?" Yang Xinxin, "Eternal life in itself does not give people happiness. Therefore, there is no fundamental connection between happiness and the length of one's life." This answer made the girl in red silent for a long time, and in the end she nodded. "You have passed." King Arthur's response to the first question was, "What a boring question. Only people whose lives are about to come to an end would have the time to ponder such meaningless questions." As for the second question, he responded, "I don't think so, because the reason life is brilliant is because it will come to an end." The mechanical civilization's six-winged sovereign, Ichigard, answered confidently and cautiously when he heard the question. He pointed to the middle of his own eyebrows and replied, "The essence of life is here, and the existence of all things is the spirit. Everything is illusory, and only the true spirit endures." The girl in red asked him again if eternal life could bring happiness. Ichigard then replied with a deep gaze, "The survival of the individual is only the self-renewal of the group. If the group can exist forever, then we will create meaning for our own existence. Therefore, the individual cannot obtain eternity. But the group can." He said this, pointing his finger at the red-clad girl in front of him. "Just like you. Collecting the unconscious, you are the eternal existence of the Ihan tribe." The red-clad girl simply said indifferently, "You have passed."